So we just finished the Lead 2020, and I want to talk about a couple of issues we kind of talked about in that 3 days, and then I want to talk about some other issues. But the first thing I want to talk about is
whiskey.
I have no idea what we're going to talk about.
First thing you want to talk about is the whiskey and the cigars. It's a whiskey and cigar podcast.
Yes. Gentlemen, we just finished up 3 days of Lead 2020. And here we are at the beautiful Broadmoor Hotel and Resort, our little home course here. And so excited to have you guys down in Colorado Springs. And you and I have played this course a couple of times together.
Yes, we have, twice in one day.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. If you ever get a chance to come to Colorado Springs, come down here to the Broadmoor and hang out. Drew, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. I have not had an opportunity to lose any balls out here yet.
Yeah, well, it's early. It's early. So what I would like to talk about before we get started, G-Man, is a little conversation about whiskey and cigars. What do you got smoking there?
This right here is a nice little Arturo Fuente, and it's a neutral. Oh, Arturo Fuente. It's Fuentes.
Roll the R's.
Roll the R's.
Fuentes.
Roll the R's.
Arturo.
Arturo.
Fuentes.
What have I got here?
That's a Cohiba. That's a Fidel Castro Cohiba.
Yeah. Well, this is
probably not a Cuban.
Post-revolution, I think.
Probably Nicaraguan.
Yeah.
Or Dominican.
Yeah.
Import.
What do we got here for whiskey? I see some Stag.
Yeah, we're doing the Stag right now. Drew Cameron sent the top 50 whiskeys for the year, and we went down the list, and Stag was ranked number 2 on the list.
Number 2.
We haven't had Stag yet, so we decided that we would try it.
We're
and I have
like
to tell you,
Amos. We're okay being number 2.
well, in this situation,
What was number 1?
I don't know. What was number 1? I would think Pappy Van Winkle.
That was at least five
Pappy.
glasses of whiskey
Something
ago.
I will say this. This is a strong spirit. This is not for the faint of heart.
And it normally isn't for breakfast.
Well, there's only a few people that would do that for breakfast. I'm not naming any names.
I don't know who those people would be.
I'm not naming any names.
Besides ourselves.
So guys, let's get serious here. We just wrapped up 3 days of Lead 2020, brought to our viewers and our members from EGIA Contractor you. And so I just want to have a summary of that discussion. I know a lot of our viewers probably were watching that, but let's have a summary of that whole discussion. And I think the brief summary could be, how important is the leadership? What's the mission, vision? What does that mean? How do we execute on that vision? That type of stuff. So G-Man, I'm going to start with you. You know why?
Because you look good in that pink coat.
You're the smartest man I know. Next to so I got the legend, I got the icon.
And the guru.
The guru. Yeah.
Wow, so vision, mission, and purpose, and then we also added core values to that conversation, I think from the question. And Drew, you brought that up, which is all 4 of those sort of go together. So yeah, I think the overarching architecture of any business starts with having a vision where you're headed, what you're trying to accomplish. The mission, of course, is then how we're going to accomplish some of those things, just a little bit more meat on that bone. The purpose, you raised Simon Sinek, I'm a big fan of his. The why, and I think a lot of the recruits that we're working on today, they want to know why. It's the work itself is not the purpose. The money is not necessarily the purpose. Those things count. People use those as scoreboards, but why we're doing it and why it's maybe good for the environment, why it's good for community. There's bigger issues that people want to know. And then the value structures are just how we're going to hire and fire and how we're going to build a culture of a team and how we're going to get along together and how we're going to build that overall organization. So it's a powerful set of concepts. Unfortunately, I think a lot of companies don't do a good job with it. They don't give it enough treatment. And I think that's what you talked about. Maybe you want to expand on that.
Well, the first thing I want to comment on is the fact that we couldn't afford cardboard cutouts for our audience. We actually brought in some live members to play golf behind us. But yeah, I think what we were talking about. I call them the foundational elements, the cornerstones of any business, and I have just learned over the last 20 years as a business coach and consultant. Even at the company that we hired you into, that company couldn't grow and scale if it didn't have a good foundation. The foundation of the Empire State Building is 55 feet deep, right? So that's the only way that building can go up like 1,276 feet or something like that, right? Because it has a deep, strong foundation, right? You look at the California redwoods out in California.
It's in California.
Yeah, California redwoods.
Northern California.
That's why he's the guru.
He's the icon.
Oh, the icon.
You're the legend. I'm the guru.
Right? So the California redwoods, though, they have a very shallow foundation, but what they do have is an intertwined network of the root system. That's how those trees are able to grow as high as they do, right? So one way or another, you need a strong foundation as an individual and then as a business. And the vision, the mission, the purpose, okay, because I split those two. I wanted to have a why. I specifically wanted to be able to play off of that because of Simon Sinek. Because, I mean, yeah, they say there was a book that was written years ago. I don't know the name of the author, but it's like everything I needed to know I learned in kindergarten, right? Caring is sharing, right? Take naps, have recess, go out and and play, right? But also the other thing is why. Kids always are asking why. Why can't I have a cookie? Why, right? And if you think about that, we never satisfy that. And we don't satisfy that with our customers. We don't satisfy that with our coworkers. We don't even satisfy that within ourselves. And we always are wanting. And so if you're always wanting, guess what? You'll always be wanting. You mentioned the law of attraction earlier in our conversation today. And the law of attraction is if you're wanting for something, guess what? You will always want for it. Right? If you have money problems and you focus on having money problems, you'll always have money problems because your focus is on that, right? It's like we talk about sports analogies quite a bit in these videos, right? If you're playing not to lose, more often than not, you lose, right? Because you get what you're thinking about, you get what you attract. You've talked about that in so many of your sessions. You become what you think about all day long.
Sure.
Right? And so I want our viewers and listeners that aren't viewing, they would be listeners, right? Hence it says the icon.
I'm just trying to process.
This is why the man is the icon.
I'm just trying to process how far we are off topic. But
so,
anywho,
I want our viewers and our listeners to understand that if they build a strong foundation of the things that they say that they want and who they say they are and want to become, and the team all buys into that, don't be surprised one day when you wake up and that's exactly who you are and where you are.
No, I agree with you.
I think we're back on track, by the way.
No, we're back on track for sure. You got us back on track. So, I agree 100% that our expectations, which is the vision, right? The end game, begin with the end in mind. What's the end game? What's the vision? So much of our expectations kind of determine the reality. One of the stories I tell, it's kind of a joke, but it's a real story. A young man came to me one time and he was talking about his plumbing business and how bad the plumbing business is and how he can't make any money and customers just want a cheap price. And he started telling me about how his dad never made any money in the plumbing business. And, and then he said to me, he goes, it's like my daddy always said, plumbers don't drive Cadillacs. And I'm like, there's your sign, right? Because that expectation of his was that, we're going to struggle financially. As it turns out, a couple weeks later, I'm down with Scott Vigu, that down in Tampa Bay, Florida. Very successful plumbing contractor. And I was down doing a couple of days of training, and I finished the first day, and he invited me out to his house, and went out with him and met his wife. And I got to their house, and she's backing their car out of the garage. What do you think she was driving? Cadillac Escalade. And I'm thinking, dang, I guess some plumbers do drive Cadillacs.
Is that before or after you went to his 100-foot boat?
That was before, because we got in his Cadillac.
Not a boat, it's a yacht.
It was a 65-foot boat, but we got in his Escalade. We drove around this marina to see his boat, and it turns out to be that 65-foot, 3.5 million yacht. I'm thinking, well, some plumbers don't drive Cadillacs. Some plumbers drive Cadillacs and yachts. The question is, which man is right? And of course, they're both right, because they're both a product of their expectations. So when we talk about vision, mission, purpose, big picture, it's about the expectation of what am I going to become? Am I going to become broke? Am I going to become wealthy? And so much of those expectations play themselves out in our life, right? In just everyday life. So
that's some pretty amazing conversation. So as we head into 2021, I think companies need to focus on their business plan, some of the ideas that they want to put down as far as where they want to go. And I love the fact that you're talking about you become what your expectations are. Your mind focuses on that. You grow towards that. And I think the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. Some guy named Napoleon Hill might have said that.
He did.
So as we think about our plan, as we think about vision, mission, purpose, values, that needs to be the leading edge of the business plan. So, I think we're going to talk more about that later on.
Yeah.
So, vision, I think it all starts with vision. In fact, our good friend Steve Schallenberger, I think he has a book that he just released about vision, right? Yeah. Start with the vision. And, Simon Sinek says start with why. Steve and Rob Schallenberger's book is Start with the Vision. And I believe in that. I went through some sales training back in the 90s, and I took my team through it, and we did an exercise called cut and paste. And what we did is we went out and got a bunch of magazines, okay? For you younger people, magazines are these little paper periodicals that don't exist anymore.
They weren't digital?
But we got a bunch of these magazines, car magazines, housing magazines, Architectural Digest, lifestyle magazines, vacation magazines. We threw them onto the conference table in my dad's office. And we said, we're coming into our new year here, and let's go ahead and build our vision, missions, and our goals. And I said, we did a whole day exercise with this. And I said, go through these magazines and sincerely do this. Flip through here and say, what is it that you want, right? If you want a Rolex, do you want a boat? Do you want a house? Do you want to go on a certain vacation? Do you want a certain amount of money into your bank account? Do you want a jet? Do you want a house in the Caymans, right? The McLarens. All the things that we've all talked about. What is it that you want for your life? What is it that you want for your relationship? What are the things you want to be, do, and have, right? And let's just, let's dream big, right? And cut out pictures that would be in alignment with that. But the goal is that you can't have pictures of 6 yachts. You can't have pictures of 7 houses. You can't have pictures of 10 different cars. You've got to be selective in the one that you're focusing on. And so the team, they went through it. We included call takers and sales coordinators and my salespeople. I let my service manager handle the service side of this. But we did it with our salespeople, and they cut all this stuff out. We gave them poster boards, and then they, and glue sticks, and they glued these things to their poster board. Now, I gave them a homework assignment. I said, now figure out what is the term of this goal. When do you want to have this goal by, and find that out, and then find out what is the cost of the goal. And in some cases, the cost of the goal might be the down payment, right? So when you got the G-Wagon, right? You don't need to come up with $120,000, $150,000 for that. If that's the way you want to play that game, sure. But all you need to do is come up with the down payment and then figure out what do you need to earn monthly to cover your payments, insurance, and gas, right? And so I had my team do that. And we started that, I think, in 1993. And we did that up until, for the 3 years, 4 years technically, if you count that year, for 4 years up until we sold the company. And then we did it after that as well. And we were wildly successful in increasing our sales results, right? Because the guys weren't doing it to increase sales. The guys weren't doing it to increase revenue for the company and profitability for the company. That was a byproduct of them doing what they wanted to do for themselves, realizing their vision, right? Realizing their mission. And so I think as a company, that's the one thing sometimes that we fail to do. We clue everybody into what the corporate vision and mission is, right? But we don't ever take the time to understand what their personal vision and mission is. And the only way that we're going to realize ours as a corporation and as an owner is to help our people see that they can realize everything they want in their lives by helping us build the kingdom, right?
Yeah. Wow. Just wow. Drew, that's some deep stuff right there. Gary, how would you complement that conversation?
I love his commentary about his team and them having their own, I believe you call it a prosperity plan. In our organization, we call it a personal achievement plan. The exact same thing, which is clarify your personal purpose, what you're trying to accomplish, big picture. Establish some values for how you're going to live your life, things that are going to match up hopefully with the corporation or the company that you're working for or the company that you own. And then break down some life goals, some serious long-term life goals. That could be attaining your first house. That could be, having a family. That could be, buying the Broadmoor Golf Club. Somebody must have thought of this at one point. It was a vision. And then start short-term goal discussion around how do we incrementally get to that place. So those are powerful, powerful concepts, but very, very few people actually employ those. And you've spent the better part of your career teaching that. We sort of demand that everybody in our organizations at least try to have those. So we know how to coach, and we can work with them on their magazines, if you will.
No, it kind of gets back to the classic Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind, right?
Yep.
And that's what a vision, mission is all about. What's the end game look like? And you can define that end game however you want. Profitability, gross revenues, market share, whatever. But you got to have an end game in mind. You got to have a target to shoot for.
Well, you did that obviously, and maybe it would be helpful for our listeners to hear how. I mean, you've had a lot of these goals yourself, right? The house in Maui, right? The G-Wagon, the house at the Broadmoor, the membership at the Broadmoor, So, take us through one of yours. I mean, you've played this game.
No, that's a great point there, Drew. So, as most of our viewers know, 17 years ago, 2003, January, I'm in a homeless shelter here in Colorado Springs, which, by the way, is about
Tejon Street, right?
Nevada, just one block over.
Yep.
And at 3808 North Nevada. And where we are today at the Broadmoor is about 7 miles south, right off the same street. And it's a completely different world. But you're right, Drew, that when I got there and the experiences I'd gone through for the number of years before I got there, it's like I am going to build a successful life. I'm going to be wealthy. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to have nice stuff. I'm going to build a good life because I was sick and tired of living in the penitentiary system and broke and struggling and all those things. And so I had a very clear vision of what I wanted. In fact, in 1996, 7 years before I got to that shelter, when I began to learn visualization, having a purpose, having a mission, a vision, I wrote out on a sheet of paper what a perfect life for me would look like. I'm an awesome father to my son. I have a beautiful wife that I can love and trust. She's sitting right there. I have a beautiful house in Maui, a beautiful home in Colorado, and wealth and success and books and businesses and all that. And it all happened, but it didn't happen accidentally. I had a specific vision, a specific thing that I wanted in my life. And when you have something specific to work for, you'll figure out the challenges, the setbacks, the whatever. It's true in life, it's true in business. I want to take my business here, you'll figure it out. But if you don't have a specific vision, a specific outcome that you're looking for, you just kind of meander around.
Yeah, I was talking actually with a client yesterday, that's a great point, that if the what and the why are big enough, important enough, you'll figure out how. I think the problem with most people is they think about what and why. Sometimes they just jump even into how, they don't even think about the why, right? And they get caught up in how. I call it the tyranny of how, right? And they will sabotage themselves. Well, you can't do that. We could never accomplish that. Why not? Well, because of this. And they make all these excuses and they never start. Right. And you're to your point. I mean, here's a guy in prison, right? I mean, he was given what were you trusted with, like a piece of paper and some crowns, right? And some toothpaste. I think you said you put it up on your wall with toothpaste, right?
I did.
Right? So, I mean, if you can do that in prison, and you can create a prosperity plan, as you call it, in prison, and then you can come out and manifest it, because that's what you did. We are all powerful creators. You created this. You created the existence that got you into the penitentiary as well, right? And so you've created this existence here with all of your goals, well, all the ones that you've at least shared with us, realized. Yeah. And I know you have others as well, but you didn't let how get in the way. How was not going to stop you because the what and the why were so important.
That's a great
right?
point.
So I think I would tell our listeners, if the what and the why are important enough, if they're big enough, you'll figure out how. You will not be denied.
It's Dr. Covey used to talk about the conscious and unconscious serendipity of the universe, right? That if you have a clear vision, the power of intention, you can figure things out. And I've shared a story with many of our viewers, listeners before. In 2018, I was watching a video of Floyd Mayweather, the boxer. And, he's got this great collection of cars. I'm kind of a car guy, nothing at his level, but I like nice cars. And he was doing this video on some fancy Bugatti or Rolls he had or something like that. And he also had this Mercedes G-Wagon, G550 squared. And he was, showing the video, and I'm like, man, that is like the ultimate 4x4, right? And so in November of 2018, I found a picture of that G-Wagon, and I put it on my dream board that I have on my phone right there, and went about my life. And then about 18 months later, I get a call from an auto broker in San Diego that I bought a car from before, and I had told him, be on the lookout for one of these G-Wagons, because they only made like 300 of them in 2018. Find one of these G-Wagons, like I found, that Floyd Mayweather had. He calls me up, he goes, hey, I got this thing, it's like 10,000 miles, perfect condition. And I'm like, we do the paperwork, I'll buy it. So I go out to San Diego and I drive it back, and I get home and we love it, and my wife loves it, and our daughter really loves it. She drives to school and she's 16 and she's pretty sure she's a Kardashian when she drives it. But about 2 weeks later, the title work comes in, and my wife opens it up, and she comes down and she goes, look at this. Look at this title work. I looked at it, and what is it? This was Floyd Mayweather's G-Wagon. It wasn't a G-Wagon just like the one I saw. It was the exact one he had in that video. And that is the conscious and unconscious serendipity of the universe. The power of intention, the power of a vision, the power of specificity. You got to know what you're trying to work for. You got to know what you're trying to accomplish. Otherwise, you're just like the classic, kind of rudderless ship in the ocean. Wherever the wind blows, you go. But if you got a mission, if you got a vision, if you got a place that I'm trying to get, one of the metaphors I use, like one of my brothers is kind of a skeptic, and he's like, this stuff you write about, it's a bunch of nonsense. And I'm like, Richard, we were in New Orleans where he lives. And I said, let's suppose I want to go to Baton Rouge. And I was determined to get to Baton Rouge. So I start driving out the interstate, going to Baton Rouge, and a windstorm hits. And a bunch of trees, block the interstate. Can I go to Baton Rouge still? Yeah. It's going to take longer. I got to clear the trees now. And I clear the trees and I go a little further. A hurricane hits, and it blows me off the interstate and breaks my leg, and I get, there's injuries. And can I still go to Baton Rouge? Yeah, it's going to take longer, as long as I'm not dead. And the point was that no matter how many adversities hit, I can still get to Baton Rouge. Like you talked about, if you have the passion, the focus, the determination, you'll figure out the how. It may take longer than we expect, but at the end of the day, we get to Baton Rouge. You gotta have a specific purpose, a point you're trying to get to in your life. Because if you do, you'll figure out the BS and get there.
Well, that's the thing, is if you don't have a destination in mind, any road will get you there, right?
Yeah.
You can just set out and start driving, and any road will get you to anywhere.
No, it's like that line in Alice in Wonderland. She's like, which way should I go? Which way should I go? And one of the characters said, well, where are you trying to go? And she goes, I don't know. He goes, it doesn't matter which way you go then. Right? There's no direction. There's no specificity. There's no objective. There's no G-man at the end of the rainbow.
Final comment on that is you actually got to look at that every day. It's not lost on me that he's got a dream board on his phone.
Yes.
So some people use, time management system, Franklin planners, lots of different resources, but you've got
literally you could put a goal board, put one poster.
You've got to be committed to seeing it and looking at it and checking into it, on a daily basis, so that becomes your armor against all the obstacles and all the static and all the BS that's out there and all the people that say you can't do it, or why can't they do it? Well, because you've decided you can't do it.
Here's the interesting thing as well, that you've been very transparent as long as I've known you about, you declare what it is that you want. You speak about it, as do you. I mean, we all know at some point this man is going to have a jet, right? He will have a jet. He had talked about having a house in the Caymans, and let me check. Do you have a house in the Caymans?
I do.
Yes, you do. Okay, so he declared what he wanted. Too many people, too many of our viewers and listeners, they keep their dreams inside for fear that people might laugh at them, or that they might not get it. But the thing is that that's the thing that stops you from realizing it. The thing that you put out in front of you and you declare to the world, you'll go after it, because you've now declared it to yourself, but you've also declared it to others. Yeah. You've made it public. And then don't be surprised when others actually want to help. Right? I'm sure you achieved everything you have by yourself.
You're right.
All by yourself.
Tons of help.
Nobody helped you.
You helped me. You gave me a job 17 years ago.
I was one.
Here's the bottom line. If you don't know where you're going, you're probably not going to get there.
Yep.
If you do know where you're going, you probably are going to get there. Have a vision. Have an end game in mind for your business. Eventually, you'll find a way to get there.
Agreed. That could be transferring it to the kids, building it, selling it.
Whatever it is.
A lot of different avenues.
No doubt.
Powerful.
Here's to the stag.
Here's to the stag. And the vision of having
we might see a stag behind us. We saw some deer earlier.
Having the vision of having the #1 whiskey in the world.